we're performing all the time as women. All I do in my life every day is some sort, as authentic as I can be, and I try to live my life in the most authentic way that I possibly can and show up 100% myself. I still am putting on armor. And so letting the armor down is so important and it's so needed. We all need to make space for that. We are all wearing this armor. You do have to have some armor, right? Armor is there to protect us, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to be authentic in how we show up, but there is that level of protection that we have. And so my question to you is, what are you needing to let go of? And where is it in your life that you can actually let your armor down? Not everyone is rooting for you to win, and that is okay. I think that's just a realization that we have to come to terms with. And it's not saying that we're not going to root for other women. There are going to be friends in your life that you will have to let go of relationships. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you that this is the truth and the reality of your success. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the CEO School podcast. Happy Monday. I hope wherever you are listening, you are just having the best week ever. I am in a different energy today as we just completed our spring wellness retreat for the Millionaire Founders Club. And we just got back from Phoenix, Arizona. So I literally took a red eye on Thursday. And I'm in studio right now recording. So it's just been a short weekend. And my husband was in Cabo on a boys trip. So I had literally no time to recharge. But I have so much to download with you guys on this incredible retreat. And yeah, I want to get right into it. So for those that don't know about the retreats that I host, I've been doing this for 6 years. So when CEO School started in 2020, it started with a podcast, and then we formed a digital community, which was called the Founders Club. It was like one of the first of its kind to bring just female founders together, and it was through a digital setting. And now there's so many incredible communities, which is so amazing. But the digital part of it, I felt really, there was parts of it that I loved, but just felt really disconnected with my audience and just wanted to be in real life and in person. And that was also during the time of COVID and the pandemic, so we really couldn't do that. But by the fall of 2020, I hosted a 20-person retreat. Like literally, it was during the pandemic. And we had, it was actually here. It was actually here at the Hi Hello Lab studio, which didn't even look like this at that time. And we hosted such a small group of women. And it was literally life-changing for me and for the women that came into the room. We had a couple requirements. So it was for 7+ figure CEOs. And I had put it out online that I'm looking to host something like this to meet founders in real life, as well as have conversations on scale and business scale, but really also around what I didn't realize, how much we would talk about life and how much it was really about us and building ourselves as well as building the business. And so since 2020, that model has grown. We've literally hosted 3 events on average since that time. So I've done all kinds of retreats in all kinds of places. And then 3 years ago, so 3 years into that, what I learned was that women were coming into the room, and it was such an incredible weekend. We did so much transformational work. We were having just conversations around business scaling, and we were applying so many things from my playbooks, as well as we would bring in other speakers and experts, learn from each other. And then the life component was so real because we were forming real friendships, real bonds, real friendships, a real sisterhood. And that post the retreat, there was this well, what's next? When are we all getting together again? So I started to see that the same women started to come to the next one and to the next one. And that is really how Millionaire Founders Club was born, was instead of it being a one-time model, we're how do we just join this style of membership and community and commit to coming in person together at least 2 times a year. So right now, we've been 3 years into that. We have roughly around 100 women now. And we've got 93. So we have a couple spots left. So if you are a 7-figure entrepreneur, and want to be in a room like this, please go to the link in my bio right now and just fill the application and send me a DM on Instagram and say, Suneera, I would love to be in the room with you. And here's where my business is at, and here's why. And I will share all the details personally. And by the way, I'm still personally in my DMs, which is obnoxious, but I am. And so it is going to be me. So please, please, please say hello. I would love to get to know you. So that model formed in 2023. And I was like, okay, we're gonna get together, and that is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do it. We're gonna be committed to the group, and we're going to come in person in real life. And then when we're not in real life, because we can't do a million things, and we've got kids and businesses and really heavy executive business calendars and so many other places and conferences to be at, we are going to stay connected digitally. And that's where the digital model does really help. And we get together twice a month online. And I literally say it is low effort, high impact. That is like what I tell every single new member that comes in, like just show up and you don't have to do anything. And like you will literally learn from, I bring in, it's pretty peer led. So we all share, every one of us that is vetted, we're all a thought leader in something. We really are experts in our own industry and lanes. And so we just truly like playbook share and learn from each other. And so when someone has a really successful, like it was taxes in April, and we had one of our experts, she is a tax expert. She literally was like, here's what I think, what I'm finding amongst my clients that I think y'all should be talking to your accountants about. So it is so meaningful and impactful. And we also then have, outside of just business, leadership and just challenges and things that we'll share about. Like we had a conversation on how to terminate employees and when, what is the right way from an HR standpoint, what is, what's right and how we should do it and what we should watch out for. And then also being able to share our lived experiences of that and having real conversations around that. So around twice a month, we have the digital setting, and then we kind of go back into like our day-to-days. And it's such an incredible group of women. And in person, we commit to getting together, like I said, spring and fall. So we just had our spring event. And for this spring event, we wanted to focus on, there's always like a theme around the retreat so we can keep it fresh and always be growing. And this one in particular, we really wanted to focus on ourselves and wellness. And I picked such an incredible resort that was so phenomenal. They're not paying me to say this, but if you have an opportunity to go to Phoenix, go check out Savannah Wellness Resort. It is a top wellness destination. I cannot wait to go back. Everything was 10 out of 10, super phenomenal. These are also $1 million+ founders. And so I always want to curate an incredible luxury experience as well. And so it did not disappoint at all. And our team was just so thrilled. We have a huge team that also supports even just the building of it. But today is not about like the back end and the behind the scenes of the business here around running retreats. But if you want an episode like that or what it's like to run real life events, definitely drop it into the comments, ping me, on my stories or, on Instagram, and let us know so that I can share that conversation with you. But today I wanted to share what happens when you get, it was 50 women at this one, 50 high achieving, super successful women in the room together. And we're in a place where their guard is completely down, armor is completely off. What are those conversations like? And what were the shifts that took place, not just for me, but for the women? And even though you weren't in the room, I think that some of these lessons that I'm going to share will be a really incredible reminder for you today, wherever you are at in your journey. Because really, and I think it goes back to the episode that I just shared about Emma's book, like starting with yourself is so super important. And as high achieving women, we really don't get an opportunity to pour into ourselves. Like we really just don't. And first of all, it's so hard for us to carve out time. So that's like number one, just carving out time to say, I'm going to go do something like this. It's next to impossible. So what the group kind of allows us to do is it forces us to put this on the calendar. We are already committed to it. All the women, it's a membership model, so you don't have to like buy tickets into it. So it's so like you don't have to think about it. You like have to show up. And so what's amazing is that everyone does show up. And there's a million excuses not to go. There's a million reasons why to cancel. There's a million. And like you've done that. So think about that where you were like looking at something online or you're like, I really want to go on this vacation, or I really want to go, away with my girlfriends for a weekend. I really want to go on this retreat, whatever the things are, you've made every excuse not to go. And I do that myself as well. So I forced, like, this is a way for us to force, like, it works and it's been working for the last 3 years because you've already committed to it. So it forces us to get out of the screen and really into the room. And I kind of do that in other aspects of my life. So pro tip on if you want to do stuff like this, or you want to commit to something, I love also prepaying for things only because when I pay for it, it's out of my mind and I have to use it up. So I'm definitely a firm believer in memberships. I mean, my first business was an entire subscription payment processor. But I'm a huge believer in subscription style models. And yes, before it does, like, I'm definitely a huge subscription girly and I have to like cancel stuff all the time of stuff that I'm not using, but it does force me to go use it. And ironically, actually, there's like an interview that we're doing today after this solo episode is actually with a founder that I have a subscription for her brand, actually. So I can't wait to tell you about that. But I prepay for things. I'm just about to sign on. I'm really excited to sign on with this new therapist, and I haven't had therapy in a really long time. There's things that I want to talk through and work through. And I just signed up for the stuff and I'm like, can I just prepay for like 6 months worth of sessions? He's like, no one does that. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's how I'm going to show up because it's done. And so I'm a huge believer in that. So super excited to tell you about what actually took place at the event, at the resort, and what happens when you put 50 high achieving 7+, 8-figure, like just women that have just doing all kinds of amazing things. And we get into the room and we get out of our day-to-day, right? So first of all, let me set the scene for you because it's the middle of the desert also. So first, on my flight over there, I am like, why do I end up picking these places that are so far from Orlando? Because y'all, I'm hosting this. Why do I make my life harder when I could just do it here or pick something closer to my home city? And so I'm already annoyed with myself that I end up like picking these wild destinations and I get these like big ideas and like it's so far. So I'm like heading over West Coast, going to Phoenix. And then when I get there and like I arrive at the resort and immediately I'm like, this is exactly why. Because it is so serene. It is nothing like what's happening on the East Coast or in our busy day-to-day in New York. And most of our women are East Coast or LA, like in really big cities. We're building businesses in big cities and like just pulling ourselves out in the middle of the desert. Like I immediately had this like sense of complete calm just from the environment in and of itself. And so that is such an important part of any kind of experience, especially in a setting like this. But one, I walked in and it was so peaceful and I was so excited to get everyone together. And usually on our retreats, so they're, a 3-day retreat. I was there for 4 nights because I also hosted my mastermind for the Boardroom, which is a private mastermind I host. It's sub 10 women. And I haven't even had a chance to tell you guys about it, but it's board level accountability. So it's super business focused and we're like really focused on making sure that everyone hits their revenue targets. I pretty much act as their like board of directors. We create a board of directors. Phenomenal. I love it. And I'm kind of, I'm in like my first cohort of something like this. And whenever I do something like that, I always do it in a small setting. So I had my board meeting for our Boardroom women earlier that day. And I'm so glad that I did that because we got business out of the way. But the night at that, like in the evening, we're welcoming all of the Millionaire Founders Club women. So now there's like 50 women coming in. And usually for our retreats, we always have like one big dinner the night before. And that's kind of like the welcome night. And we always have a theme and we dress up. And that's just so fun to do as women too. So we have like a Western theme and we always have like a communal table. So I really love to have like just like one long table. Now it's because there's so many of us, like it's not always like one. So it's like 2 long tables, but it's a beautiful setting and dinner and we're all dressed up and so fun. And I'm setting the tone for this retreat. And at dinner, I share that I think that the theme, and like it kind of always comes to me and it always changes. Like it's so incredible how, you are able to like receive your environment and then create something that like was 100% needed. And the theme ended up becoming the question I asked. And we always set an intention for the retreat. And the question that I asked the group for like our dinner conversation was, I said, I'm here to really let go. And what are we letting go? And I wanted to have that conversation with the women. And we're supposed to talk individually, and like we're sharing with like, our table mates and, what we're supposed to be letting go, or what we feel like, what we want to let go, and what is our intention of letting go of this retreat. And what ended up happening was I asked the question, and immediately like the energy in the room shifted, because I asked everyone to really like let their armor down. And I said, like, this was like our only dinner that we're going to like, we're dressing up and the makeup is on, but like we're performing all the time as women, like constantly. All I do in my life every day is some sort, as authentic as I can be. And I try to live my life in the most authentic way that I possibly can and show up 100% myself. I still am putting on armor, right? I still have to dress up. Like that's important. I have to go to work. I have to put makeup on. I have to put on a performance in a sense of I have to be a leader when I'm in the office. When I'm coming into the studio, I have to be a leader to all of you. My words matter, right? And so I have to ensure that my words are impactful, and that I'm, thinking about that message for all of you. That's still a performance that I have to do. When I, pick up my kids today, I'm still performing then for my kids and for my family. And life right now, as a high achieving woman, we are constantly in a state of performance. And the armor that we're wearing is a lot of armor. And what happens when that armor comes down? And so I asked the women, I want to take off my armor this weekend. I'm showing up. And retreats, and like we've been doing this for so long, there's also this like social media element to it too. We take photographs, and we, it's part of the business too, to share so that other people can see how incredible it is. And, we can share it with the rest of the community that couldn't be there, and invite new members to join. And so there's social media, and there's, that's an entirely new pressure. And I have that as like point number 3 in this 5-part lesson today. But it's a performance. I said, I don't care about like, let's just show up without our armor, and what could that look like, and what would you be letting go of? And immediately, like, that was it. And the tone was completely different for this retreat. One woman stood up and shared what she was letting go of. And then another woman stood up and shared what she was letting go of. And that just was our entire 2 hours of dinner in that evening. And it was just so powerful to know in a collective space that we are all wearing this armor. And so letting the armor down is so important, and it's so needed. And we all need to make space for that. And where is it in your life that you can actually let your armor down? So you do have to have some armor, right? Armor is there to protect us, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to be authentic in how we show up, but there is that level of protection that we have. And so my question to you is, what are you needing to let go of? What is the armor that you're wearing that you wish sometimes could come down? And for me, one of the things that, was validated through the retreat, but, and it was, their themes across from all women were pretty similar, actually. Like the one that I shared for myself was people pleasing. Like I still continue to be a people pleaser. And that's what I was saying. I'm like really wanting to do some therapy around that in particular, and where it comes from. And that's something that I don't know how to let go of, but I do know that I have that tendency to ensure I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Like it comes from a good place. It's not coming from a place of, because I don't have a spine, or because I can't be direct. Like that's not how I operate in business. But I do have a tendency, I just don't want to let anybody down. I want to be inclusive. So I feel like I overbend and accommodate things to ensure everyone is satisfied. I tend to do that even within my community. And there's so many examples of it. And I tend to try to, and it adds so much pressure on me as I'm constantly bending to try to please everyone when I don't need to be. And the truth is that I'm afraid of the root cause of it is I'm afraid if I do say no or I don't accommodate, like what will they think? Like that's where it comes from. And I'm not a therapist and I don't know how to like solve through that. But that's something I need to, that is something I want to let go of. And so that came out. And for others, it was our levels of there are similar themes, right? Perfectionism and what other people think, and letting go of this, like even in our achievements, like the unsatiated level of like what's good enough. And so that constant chase, letting go of that chase. Guilt was something that came up so much. And actually, shame came up. But we tend to use the word guilt before we actually use the word shame. And there are things that we feel we're ashamed of, whether that is, you know, where we are in our businesses, where we are, how we want to show up. And that's where armor comes up. There's parts, like deep parts of us that feel shame. And we sometimes even mask it as guilt or mask it in that armor. And so, y'all, those were the conversations that's how we started in this room. And so I want to ask you, what would happen if you let your armor down? Reflect on, where are you wearing that armor today? And what could it look like to take it off? And even if you have to have some of it, what does it look like to have like the least amount on? Or when is it okay for you to have a space to take that off? And letting the armor down was just so critical, and letting go. So that was like theme number 1 that came about, and I want you to reflect on that. Theme number 2 was something that I shared very, very vulnerably, privately in the room, that I've been feeling I think, not that I'm wrong, but an area that I feel like I've just evolved. Like you can outgrow your beliefs too. So like, just because this was something that I felt 5 years ago. So when I started the podcast, everything was around feminine, right? Because I was like, man, I'm so in my masculine. In my day-to-day, I'm in finance. I'm working, you know, in fintech. I have male co-founders. I'm raising capital. Like my world was such a man's world. And I never found an opportunity to truly show up in my feminine. And so I found some of that, and I had record-breaking success because I came from a place of feminine energy. And I shared all of that with all of you over the last 6 years of, you know, you can show up in your feminine and lead in your feminine. And it does not have to be in our masculine to build a really successful business. And clearly, I'm a great example of that in building a billion-dollar company by believing in and doing it my way, not his way, right? So doing it her way and doing it. And this is literally the premise of this entire podcast, was how she built this, not how he built this. And I think my theory has evolved, because when I look around the room, and being in our feminine is so important, okay? And I am 100%, like I am both. I am masculine and I'm feminine. And when I look around, and now like zooming out of all of the businesses, I have seen over 6,000 P&Ls, maybe more, through my course of building CEO School, all of the work that I do on boards and supporting women, and through our programs. And we've made progress, but we really haven't made a dent. Let's be honest. Like, we are not making as large of a dent. 50% of businesses are still started by women, and yet the statistics have not, yes, that number, I believe we've made an impact on that 2% statistic on 7+ figure businesses. But even beyond that, look at the number of exits, right? Like, yes, they're growing, but not at the record as I believe that they should. If we look at venture capital, yes, there's some dent in venture, but we're actually probably still at the same stats as we were 6 years ago, maybe just, a few points better, right? And so there's been progress, but I do not believe the progress has been fast enough. And when I take a look at that, I think that this message around our feminine energy, like when I'm zooming out over the last 6 years and looking at women in business, I actually think that business should be handled in the masculine energy. And yeah, I just said it. And I believe that and I'm allowed to change my perspective on it. And I think my perspective has changed. When I actually take a look at my businesses that are super successful and where I show up in business, it's not about not being in my feminine, right? So there's leadership parts of me that are in my feminine. Like, I am a woman. Like, I can't change my emotion and how I'm naturally wired. But at the same time, When I do business in my business components of it, whether it's negotiating a deal, what it has to do with money, what it has to do with partnerships, what it has to do with customers, what it has to do with getting business done, it's pretty black and white. It's business, it's masculine, it's direct, and guess what? It's so easy because of that. There's not this much emotion that I'm putting into that. Where I put the emotion is okay, and that's in my people and in my feminine and other parts of the business that I feel do benefit from, and the impact and our mission and culture and other places and relationships that do drive the business, where I can propel my feminine energy in that. But if I actually zoom out, most of the time when I'm in my 9-to-5 day-to-day building companies, it's pretty direct and it's pretty much in my masculine. And am I saying that that is right or wrong? No, I'm just pointing out an observation that I'm having again to say, maybe if like I just stayed in that and stopped putting so much pressure on like trying to be something else, I could maybe have further progress. And I'm doing that. I'm having progress again at Worth. I just built another fintech right in front of you over the last 18 months. We have almost 100 employees now. We had a $25 million seed. We had a $30 million Series A with American Express. We are signing enterprise customers. It's big fintech. It's so different. And guess what? Even when I talk about it, you can tell my energy shift and my tone shift I'm very much in my like easy masculine. Like, and like literally it's so direct. It's simple. And I think that in the businesses like CEO School, where I feel a little bit more in my feminine doing business with a lot of women, I've seen this huge juxtaposition, and it feels harder because I feel like we're putting so much energy and emotion onto everything. And so one of the takeaways that I shared with everyone during the retreat was, what if we actually just decided that business is just business, okay? And that we're looking for that outcome, right? Which is a profitable, successful enterprise so that we can live our beautiful life in our feminine, so that I can take Fridays off and go pick up the kids and have, the freedom of dollar to do the things that I want and build with impact. All of those things in my feminine, I'm not saying that I don't want to do. I want to go achieve it, but I can only achieve it if I just focus on like just business for business so I can get that outcome. And there was a lot of dialogue around this, a lot of debate around this as well. So I'd love to hear your perspective on this. And I feel like you could have a completely opposing viewpoint than me. But I will say from a pure business standpoint, I have found more profitability, financial success if I do not put that much emotion into the day-to-day of the business. And I just focus on being in my masculine, getting shit done, and using my feminine energy, which makes up all of me, in the areas that I want my feminine energy to be in. And that's my stance on that right now. So I think that we should operate back to business, with simplicity, and remove the emotion. And I just want you to have a thought around that. Like, what could that look like? What is Suneera saying here today without like fully going rogue on me on like, well, I want to be in my feminine and I should be in my feminine. And, yes, you should. And yes, we should. We should be authentically ourselves. But what would it look like if it was actually just business as usual? It was just as simple as that. Another thing that, so sit with that. Let me know your thoughts. And I'd love to have a really honest discussion about this. Number 3, another thing that came up was just the pressures around just social media right now as well. And so one of the armors that everybody shared that they are literally putting on is social. Social came up constantly of something that's draining, that feels exhausting, the content like hamster wheel. This was not part of business before. Showing up as a founder, the pressure of showing up as a founder, there was like just way too much conversation here. And I do want to remind everyone in the conversation like took place of not everybody needs to have a brand. Not everybody needs to have a podcast. Not everybody needs to be on social media. And if you actually take a look at male-founded companies, there's not that much pressure on male-forward founded brands to have a personal brand or to have a social media as much as there are for women to have it. And I think we've put this pressure not only on ourselves because of, because it's visibility. It's great. I'm air quoting great for our brands. Clearly, we've seen a ton of success around founder-led brands. This is part of what I do. Like, we are all doing it to ensure that we become the thought leaders of our space. And there's a lot of beautiful things that are around it. So I'm not discounting it. And at the same time, we're also living in an age where now, like, it's not differentiated anymore, is what I feel. And I'm literally like, my feed looks exactly the same from every founder that I see. It's, I was telling the women, it's like, sometimes I want to, like, I open up social media and like throw open my mouth on like literally every women's conference, every women's this or it's just the same. And so I think truly that the conversation came about and I wanted to share it with you. I don't think everybody needs it. And I think that if you can build a brand without it, that is actually a much more scalable brand. And there are brands, I think consumer facing brands, like there are certain kinds of brands that might require it, but what would it look like if it was actually like user generated content versus founder led content? So not saying it's neither right or wrong. I do want to bring it up that this was a real topic of discussion. And again, my goal for this episode today is just to share some of those nuggets to get you to think and so that we can have a real dialogue. And my honest hot take on this is that not everyone needs it. Don't put this much pressure on it. Also, another thing that came about is clean up your feed. So go into your socials right now today and like clear up all there's like a way to do it. I mean, I don't have a video on it, but I'm sure you can ask your GPT or Claude or like Google it on how to clean up what your algorithm is showing you, because you are literally only seeing all your competitors right now. You're only seeing all the same like founders that you follow. You're only seeing all of the same stuff. And then you feel like you're behind because that's your only feed. Like I used to actually get really like, I don't even see any of my like kids, like my friends' kids anymore on social. Like, and I used to be able to see a little bit of everything. So that was one of my action items when I came back from the retreat, was also to turn it off. And again, going back into our masculine is not giving that much of a fuck. Okay. So like just fucking post it or just don't, and turn off the phone and let your teams handle it. And so if you feel like we have to do it, where we're getting caught up is in that feminine because we're focused on that perfectionism. And I'm totally calling you out. And you do this where every single word that you like, you're rewriting, recopy editing, you're not happy with your team. I've never met like anyone who's happy with their social media team ever. Okay, that's an us problem as women. And so if it is important for your business or for your brand, like learn to also let it go. And I am a recovering perfectionist, just like you, letting go of that. And I'm practicing following it right now. And so I'm going to try to give less fucks. And I think those are also the brands that are like becoming most successful, is like when the armor is down and you're like just sharing what you want to share. It feels more genuine and authentic. And so not everybody needs it. So check what you've added on your list of all the things, because you're also running a business. So actually go focus on where your customers are, what you need to do more of, and stop living in this like what society is telling us that we have to act on. Huge takeaway. Takeaway number 4 was that like you truly are allowed to disconnect. Oh my God, even for me, and I disconnected, but I still have to hold space for everyone. So at the end of the day, I'm still hosting. But man, like it was incredible to just be in the middle of the desert and like truly disconnect and like phones off and being present and being in nature and taking the time for yourself. There's no words to that. And I don't know why it takes us as women so long to give ourselves permission to do that. Like everything I do, I try to tackle on my friends with it, or my kids with it, or my spouse with it, or like it's nothing is ever just about me, ever. Period. Like I literally cannot tell you when anything was about. Even right now, I went to go host something like this. It was still not about me because I'm hosting space for everyone, but I was so happy that they got space for themselves. And so I too am going to go figure out how to disconnect so that I can go be with myself. And it's just super important. And just another reminder that came about, every single woman there, I literally have 50 text messages of, I almost didn't come. I am so glad that I did, and it was life-changing for her. So whatever that looks like, if it's a day, if it's time to yourself, if it's the next trip, if it's just like you know, locking yourself, like, going to the next city over and just having an evening to yourself. I don't know, going to the movies by yourself. Like, pick things that are just for you. You are totally allowed to do that. And so I do know why. We just have so much shit to do. And it's like, as women, everything is about everybody else. But I just want to give you permission for that. You are allowed to. So that was lesson number 4. And then a really hard one. So episode's going to be really controversial. I really don't care anymore. There's a truth in all the work that I do with women. And I think that not all women actually want you to win. And that's the truth. That was lesson number 5. No matter what, we can sit here and preach collaboration over competition and like the girl squad and all of this, like, women, which I've been doing for 6+ fucking years. So I'm telling you that as well. And nature versus nurture, something in our nature is just there. Not all women can be happy for other women. So in your circles, as the more you become successful, your circle actually needs to get tighter. And that's not because, and like we've been talking about this for 6+ years of how lonely entrepreneurship is. It is the loneliest thing that you'll ever go on. And especially as you become more and more successful, I've actually, not only do I feel it, this was a topic of conversation that came up, like even in other rooms that we're in, not everyone is rooting for you to win. And that is okay. I think that's just a realization that we have to come to terms with. And it's not saying that we're not going to root for other women, right? You don't also have to hold capacity for everyone as well. And so I just want to also give you permission and reminder, and I'm doing that for myself, and like when we talked about of letting go of like on the people pleasing side of it. And there are going to be friends in your life that you will have to let go of relationships. You are moving into different circles and your wounds will get smaller. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you that this is the truth and the reality of your success. With success comes that sacrifice. Not everyone's going to like you, and you have to get comfortable around your own skin and your own self, and not really like, and that's something we all focus on, is it takes courage to be disliked. There's actually an incredible book I recently read. It's actually called The Courage to be Disliked, because I was going through something similar, and we just have to get comfortable with it. And this was a reality that we all shared, and that our circles are getting smaller, and it's okay, and it's actually getting better. So although there's parts of us that crave all of it, right? I just want to share my reality and our reality, that it's also okay, and it's okay to have quality over quantity, and to be a little bit protective. And going back to, I'm not saying that, it's just the armor, right? So going back to lesson number 1 is to let the armor down, but that armor can come off in spaces like this, in very curated spaces where we really do want to see each other win, and that her success does not take away from my success. And it never did. None of that. No one's success takes away from anyone's success. But a lot of our mindset as women, no matter what we're going through, it's still around scarcity. And that's just conditioning of society. And there's only been, like, we can spend an entire episode, and we've done so many of these, on why it takes place. But just wanted to share that takeaway with you, that it's just okay. And so I think I'm learning that we don't have to change everything. And I think the purpose-driven human I am, I'm like, okay, let's change it all. And I'm super optimistic about the world. And not that I'm coming back pessimistic. I think what was really different is that I let go of any expectation, right? I let go of those beliefs to say that I don't need to be the one to change it. I can understand what it is and then navigate around that because of the outcome that I want. And so then I can play into my masculine where I need to, so that I can be in my feminine with my group of friends that do show up for me, for the community that is there, that has the armor down, and that can create such a safe space like we just did. And so I think over the last 6 years, I've watched this evolution across all femme communities and across all of these movements that have been super impactful in so many ways, but I think they've actually not been honest. And I think it's actually still, if you look at the progress, going back to the whole point, our stats haven't moved. And so I'm toying with, how do I actually show up where I need to in my masculine? And then be in my feminine where it counts and where it needs to be. So pretty heavy in terms of thoughts. It wasn't this like super inspiring episode today, but it was an honest one. And I'd love to get your perspective around these topics. So recap, it was letting the armor down, feminine versus masculine, dying to know your take on it. And then turning off the socials, like not everybody needs this brand. And like, what could it look like? Like what could that look like? You are allowed to disconnect. And the final truth was that not all women want you to win. So I would love to get your take, your perspective. DM me, like, let me know in our reviews below, and send me a note, because I want to carry this conversation online or offline into real life. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it got you to think about some things. I want to know what is like your most burning questions from this. I'll definitely be linking some open questions in my stories, and I hope to see you next week on the CEO School podcast for another episode and for real honest conversations around what it's like to build this as a female entrepreneur. I'll see you next week.